to companies, and they've gone on to take that funding and raise over $350 million of follow-on. We also have implemented over 28 demonstration projects in Hawaii and Asia Pacific.
Nicholas Flanders, co-founder and CEO of Focus 12. Virtually anything that you can make from oil, we can make from CO2. We're recreating photosynthesis, but at warp speed. A single unit will have the power of 37,000 trains, the volume of students.
There is going to be a multi-trillion-dollar market globally for these energy technologies.
Swiftly is a big data platform that analyzes billions of data points to help transit agencies become more efficient. In total, we've now launched this platform in 29 cities, and we impact 2 million transit riders every single day.
Recently, the nuclear market individually, our system allows their utility to provide insights on their energy usage by a client to reduce their energy bill by a couple $100 each year. We are on our 25th utility in about 12 countries around the world.
Terviva is commercializing an oilseed tree crop called Pangamia. Very proud to announce here today, we're going to be planting 2,000 acres of Pangamia, and we're going to bring 20 jobs back to that particular part of the state.
My name is Arcadia. I'm here to introduce FreeWire Technologies. We've gone global already with customers such as Vector, who's in the crowd, and as of this morning, we've signed a deal with Dubai Electricity and Water Authority to scale the product up in the Middle East as well.
So at WaterSmart, we work with water utilities and help them to better understand and effectively communicate with their customers. WaterSmart now works with 60 water utilities in 12 different states.
We could be a part of a paradigm shift from an economy that is fundamentally extractive to one that is circular. Nature figured this out millions of years ago.
Because for our mission of healing and strengthening the symbiosis between humanity and nature, there is not a place on this planet that plays greater host and offers greater evidence that we can succeed than Hawaii. So we're so proud to have the Excelerator be at home and then grow that journey, find its way across the Pacific and ultimately beyond.
All right, great, thanks. So I'm Dawn, I'm the CEO of Elemental Accelerator. I've been doing this for about 8 years now as an accelerator for growth stage companies, and we're based in Honolulu, and we also fund companies in California and the Asia Pacific and beyond. So the key thing for us, I think, is that we're quite a bit later stage than any other accelerator. So we're looking for companies that are at the very earliest seed stage and have raised some external funding, and a little later stage than what Deepa was talking about. And the latest stage company that we'll work with is in a Series C. So that's kind of the sweet spot for us. Series A is a really sweet spot for us in terms of stage of companies. The key thing that we're looking to do with companies is deploy technologies with customers in Hawaii and the Asia Pacific. So I'll give you just a quick sense of what we're looking for. So each year we fund about 12 companies. Right now we have 63 portfolio companies in our portfolio. And what we're trying to do is not just invest in a company or give grant funding to a company, but deploy projects alongside you on our demonstration track. That's really our sweet spot. And then we also have a go-to-market track where we're working with companies that are a little bit earlier stage. They're working on their business model. So we have 3 tracks working on this term, triple track. So let us know what you think of it later. And we have companies that go through our go-to-market track, which is $75,000 in grant funding. Our demonstration track is up to $1 million to deploy alongside a customer. Oftentimes we bring in those customers, and other times companies come in with their own customers, and we work with them to get them over the hump, to de-risk the project, and to do something transformative for your company that you couldn't otherwise do. And then just this year, we're launching what we're calling Equity and Access Track. So you heard it here first. This one's up to $750,000 in investment. We're relatively flexible with how this is going to work. Our preferred method is through safes and probably milestone-based payments, but again, we're relatively flexible. We want to do things that work for companies. So we're looking for companies here that specifically are bringing really interesting clean technologies to new kinds of communities. Here's some examples of demonstration projects, but rather than walk through these, I'm actually going to have our companies who are in the crew here tonight. I see FreeWire, we have Citon, Evelyn's here, Kevin's here, and then I think Daniel's here as well. You guys can raise your hands. They can tell you more about it. Kevin's part of the OG crew, actually, at EEX. So what we're doing is really focusing, like I said, on projects. We want to see things in the ground. We want to see measurable results out of projects. Usually we work with companies for 12 to 24 months to identify, design, and co-develop those projects with them. So we want to see technology in the ground, whether it's software systems deployed with big customers or hardware systems in the ground. And like I said, we'll fund things in Hawaii or the Asia Pacific. I think if you go up one more, I'll just, one more than that too. There we go. So these are the partners. The partners that we work with are deeply interested in innovation and working with startups. We generally work with the head of innovation or the head of investment at each of these organizations. Our strategy is to work across the Asia Pacific with the largest infrastructure or electricity or energy provider or manufacturer in that region. So working with Vector in New Zealand, Enel across North America as well as Italy, TEPCO in Japan, FPH in the Philippines, SK Gas in Korea, National Grid across Europe as well as the Northeast, HEI, which is Hawaiian Electric Industries in our home state of Hawaii, and GE, which is really quite global, as well as a couple of philanthropic organizations, including Blackstone and Hawaii Community Foundation. So these are the customers that we generally deploy with, although companies bring their own customers and organizations as well. The other partner on here that I'll mention is Emerson Collective. Were you guys aware of us when we were Energy Accelerator? Seems like forever ago now. So in April this year, we became Elemental Accelerator. Before that, we were Energy Accelerator. We were primarily focused on energy technologies, although we've been funding agriculture, water, transportation for years. We changed our name to make that more clear. And we also joined Emerson Collective, which is the investment and philanthropic platform of Lorraine Powell Jobs, based here in California. And we did that in order to scale this model from Hawaii to other communities and beyond. So our equity and access track is starting in California, and then we're pretty active globally as well. So that's our other key partner thing. Welcome to ask more questions or dig into any of this if you want, but I'm just going to keep flying through it so you guys can just hear the overview. Just in terms of our portfolio, I just want to give you a quick sense of what we're doing. So it's everything across the electric grid. So this is on the left, you can see things that are in utility IT, moving into renewable generation, moving through energy storage, and then things that touch energy at the residential, commercial, and industrial scale. So again, we're looking at software and hardware really across the electricity grid. And then in mobility, we're looking, here's some of the areas that we're particularly interested in. Here's our portfolio companies in those areas. And I'm throwing the portfolio companies up here. They're also on our website. And if you guys are in these spaces, I really encourage you to talk to those portfolio companies in that space and find out what it's like to work with us and what stage is best and what value they found. In agriculture, here's our portfolio companies in agriculture. Here's a few of the areas that we're interested in there. And then in water. So the last thing I'll just mention is that the Elemental Accelerator, our approach is place-based. So what we're looking at trends and what's happening in the market, but what we're most interested in is what is happening in our place where there's a gap, where there's a technology gap, where we need a solution, and then we go and scout and find folks all around the world who are filling that particular gap, and we recruit those kinds of companies and bring them into our portfolio. So it's a systems-based approach to innovation, a place-based approach to innovation. So we call it place-based innovation. We're looking for an even catchier name if you have one. But that's essentially our model. So we think of Hawaii as a microcosm for the world. Hawaii is going to go to 100% renewable, likely before any other place, in a totally integrated fashion that has solar, wind, energy storage, a little ocean energy, bioenergy, geothermal, and it's how we integrate and pull all this stuff together, integrate it with transportation, water systems, agricultural systems, cybersecurity, IT across the board, that's going to be a blueprint for how the rest of the world does it. So we want to be a really positive blueprint showing this is possible and this can happen. We don't want it to be like deregulation in California where everyone's like, okay, well let's like stay away from that because that blew up, right? So that's from our model in Hawaii, is to show that not only can you set the goal, but you can actually do it and others can do it too. this is the timeline. Our full application deadline is March 30th, 2018. This year we're doing something a little different because our partners are so hungry for innovation, is that we're inviting qualified applicants to fill out our quick apps from now until March, and then we're providing weekly deal flow to them on areas that they're interested in so that they can actually go directly to companies, not just through our portfolio, but through the entire deal flow network that we're pulling in through our quick apps, and approach those companies directly for direct investments, acquisition, or commercial deals, and those are our 3 KPIs with our partners. So if you guys are interested or want to be on the radar of these kinds of companies, please fill out a quick app, and it's the fastest way into that deal flow network.
Okay.
That's all.
Our vision at Powerhouse is to be the entrepreneurial leader in building a world powered by clean energy. Powerhouse is an open-based co-working space and seed fund. We house and invest in intelligent energy entrepreneurs that are building software-enabled technology for the clean energy industry. There are 3 things that make Powerhouse unique. First, we are industry specific. That means every investor and mentor in our network understands the clean energy industry and gets what our entrepreneurs are trying to do. The most valuable thing about being in the Powerhouse space is the collective expertise.
Being in the room with everyone who matters in clean energy.
They share the same mission and the same vision for transforming the way our world is powered.
Second, we are both a co-working space and a seed fund, which means we are providing what entrepreneurs need most, which is community and capital.
Powerhouse helped me get my first customers, which are some of the biggest players in the clean energy industry.
Powerhouse has helped me elevate our brand so everybody knows who we are and what we do.
Third, we're in the San Francisco Bay Area, the heart of the clean energy industry.
Everyone knows Powerhouse, and they know that's where the heart of innovation is.
The number of ideas that come out of this place in such a short time is just amazing.
At Powerhouse, we're building a community that comes together throughout the year for special events like hackathons, networking events that connect investors with startups, parties, and even a monthly podcast.
The energy, the people, the passion, the commitment, the potential.
Although we're from all over the world in different ages, races, genders, what brings us together is the belief that we can do.
Been successful. So we are in this podcast interviewing in a much more personal narrative fashion clean energy CEOs who, founders and CEOs who tell the story of how they built the company, who was the first investor, etc. So we'd love to have you at Powerhouse. We do this every month. The next one is January 29th with Nancy Fund, the founder and managing partner at DBL, Double Bottom Line Investors. And also, of course, feel free to check out the podcast. Cleantech Media is playing the podcast each month as a segment on the energy gain and the interchange. So look forward to your questions, and if you ever are in need of a desk, even temporarily, please come to Powerhouse and be a part of our community.
Since 2011, LACI's been focused on helping cleantech startups and growing the green economy. For the last 2 decades, I've been working with citizens and cities to fight climate change. Now I've turned my attention to helping companies. Our 3 priorities are advancing zero emissions transportation, clean energy, and smart city solutions. We want to inspire you to come up with the next big idea to fight climate change.
We're making new ways to light up LA.
We give people a smarter way to commute.
We make tableware that's good for people and good for the planet.
We're transforming air travel by building quiet, zero-emission planes.
Our indoor farms provide access to fresh, healthy food for communities around the world.
We want to reduce America's dependence on foreign oil and create a world powered by renewable energy.
LACI will continue the work it's known for, supporting cleantech startups and helping them commercialize their technologies.
Measuring our company's efforts on climate action and helping maximize their impact.
But we can do more.
The core DNA of LACI isn't just about creating cleantech startups. We're building an inclusive green economy by unlocking innovation through incubation, transforming markets, and enhancing community.
We're building relationships with industry leaders in key technology sectors.
Developing pilot projects in mobility, clean energy, and agriculture. We'll engage the innovative spirit of LA's creative community.
Will provide the spark for future entrepreneurs and the leadership LA will need when facing the challenges of the future.
Building a future that belongs to all of us.
And create a clean tech ecosystem that looks like the people of LA.
Simply put, we can't do this without you. Whether you bring your financial support,
your knowledge and networks,
or just bring yourself,
you belong here.
Join this adventure.
This energy.
This community.
We're building an inclusive green economy for the people of Los Angeles.
And if we can make it happen here,
we can make it happen everywhere.
Join us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your support.
Great. Okay, is this on? So I'm sorry I sound like a frog. My name is Jenna Wong and I'm the Senior Advisor to LACI for the Northern California work that they do. I joined LACI just last year, March of last year, from Washington, D.C., where I worked for 12 years in the Cleantech space, 4 years for the U.S. Department of Energy with some of these wonderful people that are in the room here. And you know, I'm really excited to be working with LACI because it's all about the entrepreneur, and that's really what we're here to talk about today. So LACI is a little different than some of the other organizations that you've heard from today. We were an organization that was started by the city of LA. We were started in 2011 by the mayor of LA and the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. And we started in a small garage, like a bus repair garage. And over the last 7 years, we've grown and are now in a 60,000 square foot building in the Arts District of downtown LA. A third of it is dedicated to our advanced prototyping center, where we have everything from wet labs, electronics labs, 3D printers, every kind of big tool you could ever think of, high bays, all that stuff that you need to tinker and prototype your next technology. We have our conference area, which has our co-working space for all of our hot desks, as well as for all of our incubating companies. And then the other third of our building is actually not our building, it's actually the building of the Los Angeles Department of Water. The Los Angeles Department of Water and Power are in our building. They have their customer engagement laboratory and their energy efficiency laboratory there. So they are a strong partner for us as we help to develop a community that is really focused on clean energy in LA. We do a lot of the same kind of things as some of the other organizations. We help develop pilot projects, some with some of our utilities, through something called SoCal Edge, which was a program that is funded by the U.S. Department of Energy to really help deploy technologies in buildings in LA that have committed to reducing greenhouse gas emissions and energy. So we have companies that join us and then can deploy their technologies in real buildings and get data that they can then use, hopefully, to then commercialize their technology even further. We have 40 plus companies and around 70 plus pro bono organizations and other kinds of entrepreneurs and executives and residents that help our companies go to market. And we, I think you've heard a lot about the different kinds of companies that we're looking to bring to our organizations. We look at everyone. We want people that have just the kernel of an idea, the genesis of something, all the way up into when they're growing into the market and they're expanding and they want to go abroad and start doing different kinds of activities. So we'll take anyone in that space. We also, we're an incubator, and so we dedicate at least 5 years to a company. So it might not take that long. You might not need that much time, but we understand that sometimes this takes a long time, especially when it comes to clean tech, when it's a hardware product and not necessarily a software product. So that's a little bit about LACI, and I think we were asked to talk about some of the new things going on. So one of the things that we are working on is a micro loan program. And this is really focused on helping identify really that gap for companies that don't have a lot of working capital, but they might need to, lease some space or buy a piece of equipment. They don't have equity, They don't have a lot of money, but they have possibly someone to buy the first 100 widgets that they're making. So they need a little bit of cash. So we're working with community development investment financial institutes, CDFIs, to figure out how we can provide microloans to these entrepreneurs. The thing is that CDFIs work in disadvantaged communities, and they're often working with, you know, the mom and pop that has a laundry or a grocery that needs to, you know, buy a new truck for their deliveries. They're not used to working with entrepreneurs. And so what LACI brings to the table is the understanding of what goes on with an entrepreneur, and what the bank and the CDFI brings to the table is the ability to do the microloan. So that's some of the new things that we're working on at LACI. And before my voice dies, I'm just gonna stop.
Revolution is happening, and it's happening now.
Welcome to the Smart Energy Hackathon in Bangkok.
Absolutely amazing to see so many cool people here.
From so many parts of the world to build something big.
Thank you. Is this working? It's on. Awesome. Well, it's a great honor to host this panel for the evening. Just a few quick words about New Energy Nexus. So we're a network that supports and connects clean energy accelerators. There's 3 here. We do that around the world. We have about 40 to 50 accelerators in our network at the moment that we've been building over the last 2 years. And the Accelerate Energy Summit that was just in the video brought together about 40 of them last year in Shanghai. It was one of the biggest gatherings of organizations in this space. And our thesis is more accelerators means more startups means more clean energy. So that's kind of what we're trying to do here. So it's really cool to be here with 3 of the, I think, leading ones in the world that are also in California and Hawaii, although you guys are now kind of Hawaii and California, maybe?
All over the Pacific.
Okay, cool.
If it touches the Pacific, we're there.
And so I count these 3 organizations as my friends, our partners, and it's been really cool to have you guys here. New Energy Nexus itself was born inside Powerhouse, so thank you for that, so providing the space. Elemental Accelerator has been a close partner with us in running the Free Electrons program last year. It's a program working with utilities and startups around the world. And Jetta is our office mate, so we share an office at CalCEF here in Oakland, and so we have coffees in the morning and chat about what's happening in politics in the world. So yeah, good to have you all here on our panel, and I'm going to ask you a few questions, and then I'm going to open it up to the audience. So my first question is, you're all working in the clean energy, clean tech space generally. You offer awesome programs and support. So I assume there's a whole bunch of startups here in the room that want to receive your services, and one of them might be kind of the unicorn that's going to be the next billion-dollar company. And obviously all of you would want to have that company in your portfolio. So why would they apply to your Accelerator/Incubator? What's the one unique thing that makes you different and would help them succeed their mission? So maybe you can start with Dawn.
Sure. So demonstration, which is validation. Whoa. So I think we're a little bit different than other accelerators, and we generally actually have amazing partnerships with both LACI, Powerhouse, and others who are helping companies with ideas and sort of initial funders and market development, angels, and things like that. We want to work with you on the commercialization and validation. So our real sweet spot is companies that are ready to demonstrate with some of these large partners, companies that are ready to scale in that particular way. So not a fit for everyone, but if that's a fit for you, that's great. And then particularly in like I said, in the Asia Pacific. So Hawaii is a pretty amazing market for some of these technologies. and we're also looking across the Pacific. We really believe that the climate will be lost or won in the Pacific, and so we're doubling down there and also here in California.
So you said demonstration. I'm going to say community is what LACI is about. I think as entrepreneurs, you all know, or if you don't know, you should know, you can't do it all yourself, right? You have to look to partners, like Don was just saying. And what I think is really amazing about LACI is that they're about cooperation, and they're about bringing in the community and bringing in all the right stakeholders, players, customers, vendors, suppliers, service providers that you could think of in LA and the community to make sure that you're successful. And that's what I've seen from LACI, is that they understand what it means to be an entrepreneur, and they understand that you have to pivot, but you need someone to talk to, and you need someone to go and say, okay, well, this doesn't work, what about this industry, what about this? It's all there, it's LA. I mean, they have everything, so community.
At Powerhouse, I think you come to Powerhouse if you want someone to write you an initial check when you're just one person, you have a great idea, and you can present a compelling case for an investment. We will take a chance on you. But also, I think if you have a software focus, of course, we're a great fit. And also, you know, we have the benefit of being Bay Area based and having sort of a direct and day-to-day in-person connection to the industry, corporate, and investor community in clean tech, and what I believe is really, you know, in the Bay Area, the heart of the clean energy industry in the U.S.
Yeah, I'll add just one thing, Hendrik, too, which is that even though the way you set up that question is about us competing, it's actually really not. I mean, frankly, we're just all in this for the love of it, and if you're in this room, you're in it because you love this industry and you think that this is the way to make a huge impact on the world. That's why we're all here, otherwise we'd be across the street at the social media startup meetup. And so I just think, which is cool, it's cool. But this is a passion for those of us who do this, and for entrepreneurs that we meet that are not in the, you know, the key for any startup and any accelerator is focus and knowing what you're really good at and what you're not. And when we meet entrepreneurs, we help, you know, redirect them to places that are a better fit for them too, because we want you guys to all succeed. We want everyone in the ecosystem to succeed. We're all small organizations that can only work with a limited number of startups, but we want to help you succeed no matter where you're located, what stage you're at, and what you're doing.
Cool, thank you. So, demonstration at Elemental. You first check at Powerhouse, the community at LACI are the three things you can look for. But you don't actually have to pick one of them. You can actually, I think there's even startups that might have joined all three programs at one stage of their life. So you can, you know, potentially join all of them. Just reversing the question, again, there's a bunch of startups here in the room that might want to apply. What is the one thing they should emphasize in their application, or the one quality that you guys are looking for in a startup when you go through, you know, these hundreds of applications, when you have these interviews with them? What is the one thing that you look for in a startup when they apply to your program? Maybe starting this side on the right.
So, like a lot of the incubators and accelerators out there, when we review applications, one of the first questions that we ask, are the founders coachable? Are you coachable? It's really important.
That disqualifies me.
Many of us probably, right? I think it's really important that that people are accepting of criticism, accepting of new ideas. I mean, a lot of times, especially from my previous work at the Department of Energy, when I was working with scientists that wanted to, you know, develop a new company, and they're going to take their technology out of the lab because they have the best solution out there, right? They are technologists. They love their technology. That technology might not have a market, but getting that person to understand that technology might not have a market is really difficult. So it's really important that a founder is able to be open and optimistic and understand that this is an opportunity to learn. And that's the biggest thing, is whether or not, for us, you're coachable.
At Powerhouse, I think we're, of course, looking for, because we're so early stage, we're looking for you to present an idea or a concept based in physics and reality, but also that that fills a gap in the market that presents, that we believe presents a big opportunity. But admittedly, at the stage we invest in, a lot of it is not just the idea, that is part of it, but it will inevitably change. And so a lot of it really is characteristics of a founder or co-founders, ideally co-founders. So it is, and this is hard, of course, to make a bet on early, but what we think is passion for the cause and the product and the idea, persistence, and like Jetta said, flexibility, savviness, ability to change your product and your idea and find a product market fit in those early days. So I think it's most of, I don't want to say we're not looking for the right idea, because we are, and also an idea that is innovative and new and forward-looking. But a lot of it, I think, at our stage comes down to the person, him or herself.
All right, I'll pick two. I'll pick one hard one and one soft one. So the hard one is traction, which papers over a lot of other problems in your company if you're selling stuff. So because of the stage of companies we're looking for, we really want to see traction. The second thing I'll say is that, again, Elemental Accelerator is a little different. I moved there a decade ago to work with my mentor, named Maurice Kaya. He's really a giant in the energy industry in Hawaii, kind of the godfather of energy in Hawaii. So when you come to an Elemental Accelerator and you join our community, you represent us and wear that badge. And so we take it incredibly seriously, the people that we work with. We're not going anywhere. I've lived there almost a decade now in Hawaii, and we're on a multi-decadal place-based transformation path that is starting in Hawaii and we're taking it to other places now. So this long-term relationship, how you represent yourself within our community, it reflects on all of us, and we take it super personally. So to us, I mean, that's around what this means to transform a place. We work on the policy piece, the community piece, working with partners and the unions and the schools. I mean, it runs deep. So we want to work with people that we can stand with year after year, that we can hang out with at our CEO Summit at Volcano National Park year after year through ups and downs. And we would want to be alongside this journey with. Like I said, we all do this because we love it, and so loving coming to work every day means loving the companies that we invest in.
Cool. So for Elemental, it's basically, do we love each other, and do we love each other for the next few decades?
And traction.
And traction. Passion and persistence, right? Powerhouse. And are you coachable at LACI? Cool. So my final question before I open it up to the audience here. So Cleantech is also still kind of a a thing for the privileged. I still can't afford a Tesla. Most people can't afford solar on their roof. So a lot of people working in this space are people come from really nice universities with good CVs. So what are you guys doing to help include more disadvantaged communities in both the kind of adoption of clean energy or clean tech or being involved in the industry? And how do you also encourage your startups to do this?
So LACI has a whole initiative on diversity and inclusion. Last year, 2017, now, we had our first year of our diversity and inclusion initiative, which was funded by JP Morgan, I think. Yes, I think the foundation, where we were not only trying to encourage more diversity in our own portfolio, but also in our organization. We have about 35 people that are part of that are employees of LACI. So we run the 60,000 square foot building, the Advanced Prototyping Center, and our incubator, and all of our ecosystem development activities. So we're a larger organization. So our diversity and inclusion initiative is for both our portfolio companies, but our organization as well. And it's not just about saying we're going to include people. It's actually about having a strategy and going out to other communities and bringing them in. And that's what we are really trying to do. I was actually just in LA for a diversity and inclusion workshop that all of our employees went through, and it was all about training and understanding different perspectives. So that was 2017, and JP Morgan, they just upped our grant to do that initiative again.
So I'll start by saying that I think that at Powerhouse we can always be doing more to support disadvantaged communities, and that I think from sort of communities affected by, you know, environmental justice issues, domestic communities, communities in the U.S. That often suffer the brunt of, you know, environmental injustice. We are probably not doing enough in that respect. But I would say, and you all probably know these statistics, you know, 4 and 1% of venture capital goes to people of color, founders of color, and women. And from that respect, Powerhouse is doing very well. We are an all-female team, which is quite unique in this industry. Woohoo! And also, 50% of our investments so far of the 17 have gone to founders who are Black, Latino, or Latina, LGBTQ, or female. So it's definitely something we're committed to, and I think furthermore something we think a lot of in trying to do this in a genuine and authentic way is that to really support diversity is not just to say you do, but it is having an all-female team and supporting is that attracts more people into Powerhouse's community. That attracts more founders who come to a hackathon or who come to Powerhouse and think, I could start a company. And so really I think on one hand we could be doing more. On the other hand, from an investment standpoint and from our team and the values we try to promote at Powerhouse, we're doing okay.
Cool. I mean, look, I think this is a critically important question. I mean, beyond what we're doing in the startup space, our ability as a clean energy movement to include people is critical to the success of what we're trying to do to decarbonize the world. I mean, this is absolutely the center, and I feel like if we actually don't fix this and figure this out as an entrepreneurial community, then we have really much less chance as a broader community of energy. So this is, I mean, just right in the center of the target, I think, for what we think is important in terms of a global strategy of decarbonization. At the Excelerator, we're doing a bunch of different things. I mean, we think great ideas can come from anywhere. We love launching prizes for our portfolio. So we started out with a $250,000 Ohana prize where our companies could propose ideas to work together, and they voted on it and picked a project. We ended up doing a really cool ag project, intercropping trees and cows for feed and fuel in Hawaii. We just launched about 4 weeks ago what we're called Just Innovation Prize, which is specifically for all of our portfolio companies. How are you guys going to address equity and access? And so bring us your best ideas, and we'll fund up to $100K to deploy those ideas, test them, scale what works. We're big fans of saying we think these things are important and throwing out prizes within our portfolio to really quickly get new ideas and new projects on the ground and new things generated. So that's one thing we do. Obviously, we launched our equity and access track. So we're saying to the market, if you have good ideas in this space, come tell us what they are. We'll either invest in you or we'll help route you to other kinds of capital. And the last thing I'll say is that if you know anything about Emerson Collective, I mean, you know this is the heart of the organization, which is about opportunity, unlocking opportunity for every human, every individual. Our mission there just really extends in this place. So, I mean, we're looking for great ideas. So we're doing prizes, we're doing some other interesting things, but if you guys have great ideas, we'd love to hear them at Emerson Collective and at Elemental Accelerator, and really help us think through this, because entrepreneurs have the best ideas in my experience.
I think the important thing also, especially when we're talking about diversity and inclusion, is it's not just because we should do this. It's actually good for your companies too. I mean, there have been studies that say that more diverse communities bring more diverse ideas coming in. It is shown that they are more profitable companies. There's a lot of studies out there that say that it's a good idea and it's good for our community. We should probably do this.
Well, thanks for that. It's encouraging to hear that for a lot of you it's actually at the heart of your strategy of how you operate your incubators. And also for, if we want to reach 100% renewable energy, we need to reach 100% of the people. It's kind of a simple equation. So it's good that we're all working on that together. Just checking with Rafi, how much time do we have? Like 15 minutes then?
Yeah, we'll see what questions people have.
Cool. So yeah, we just want to open it up for a few questions. We'll start here in the front. Yeah, okay, I'll repeat the question. Just speak.
Okay. Yeah, just a question for Don, actually, just a clarification of the timeline there. You have the quick application, and then it said there was like kind of an invite-only application. Is if you fill out the quick app, do you have a chance of being invited, or just how does that work?
Yeah, great question.
So would you want to repeat the question?
Sure. So on the quick app, how does it actually work to apply to the accelerator? Because we have a quick app and then an invite-only application process. So we change it every year, so we're trying this year. So our #1 goal is save time for entrepreneurs and find the entrepreneurs that fit with us fastest. And our #2 goal is see everything in the pipeline so that we can provide it to our corporate partners, investors. We work with about 100 investors, from angels to very large funds, on a really close basis. And then we have a network of about 500 investors that have come to our invite-only demo days, which you saw a little bit of that in the video. So we want to, again, do two things. One, make it super efficient for entrepreneurs to find us, submit their stuff, see if it's a fit. And second, provide incredibly broad deal flow to that group of investors and corporates so that they can find you guys easier. And oftentimes the investors and corporates are looking for things that we may not be doing at the accelerator, but they want to find that themselves and make direct investments. Particularly many organizations, the corporates I showed you that are close partners across the Asia Pacific region. So that's the process this year. It's a quick app which should take 5 to 10 minutes. And then we'll invite companies that seem like they're a fit, and we have a very detailed applicant packet on our website. Have any of you guys seen the applicant packet? Okay, we have a detailed applicant packet which sort of spells out what we're looking for in companies. So if you fill out the quick app, it should take 5-10 minutes, and then we'll invite you to do a longer app, and we hope that's a super efficient process for you. And if you have feedback, please let Sherry know, because we're always looking at how we can hack this and make it more efficient.
We have a question there in the back.
Up there?
I think so, yeah, that's probably better.
So there's a social media startup meetup going on across the street. There is obviously a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of talent in the rest of tech that probably has no idea about the needs or the community in clean tech or interest. Have you tried strategies about coaxing people in the broader tech community to come over to Cleantech? Has that worked, or has it not worked?
Did everybody hear that question? Should I repeat it? So you all heard it?
It worked for you.
All right. So, would you like to answer the question? How do we engage the developers across the street working with social media?
Well, at Powerhouse, and I've had long conversations with Daniel and Elena about this very subject. But at Powerhouse, we agree that we need to convince those software developers at the social media meetup to come over to Powerhouse and start a company or help build a company using their talents, feel a little bit better about themselves, and take a risk on something that will actually be meaningful and have a difference. So we obviously, as I talked about, are very event focused. So a lot of our strategy around this has been sort of targeted outreach to get software developers to come to Powerhouse hackathons. We host a big hackathon every April called Sun Code. You should come. There's about 120 developers, clean energy professionals that come, and it's actually seeded a lot of Powerhouse companies, including NanoGrid, I think Utility API, OwnConnect, who some of you may use, PowerHive, among others. So we've really tried just like guerrilla marketing and outreach to software developer groups with some success, but I think we haven't quite tapped tapped into beyond going to events, appealing to the heartstrings, how to go about doing this. So would love to hear from you guys if you've found any tactics.
For us, like let's appeal to the purse strings, I think, right? So I mean, big exits bring big talent. So I'm looking at all our portfolio companies. I mean, this is, I actually think that this is a really critical question, but it's something that also has to be organic. So Anel, one of our partners we work most closely with, we're really featured on your slide there, Robbie. So I think it's great companies attract great talent, and then we need more players in this space buying companies and creating exits. So we work really, I would say, in depth on both sides of that spectrum. So we want to help entrepreneurs create great companies, future entrepreneurs of all ages, but we also we work really deeply with these large corporates that are working with startups around acquisitions, because ultimately I really believe that exits and acquisitions and success are what will bring talent into this industry.
And also engage people early on.
Exactly.
One more question?
This is a big picture question. The next few years, a couple of investors have asked me, well, I like the idea of marine hydrokinetic technology, but it's an unproven thing, it's untested, and isn't the government going to make your whole field a lot more difficult? And with people like Pruitt and DeVos and so forth, the question is, how would you respond to an investor in terms of the long-term picture of what happens from the ultimate C-suite at 1600 Pennsylvania?
Well, having just left the Obama White House a year ago, I'm a little biased in my response. And I think it's a really hard question to answer. I feel optimistic in that I think from a regulatory standpoint, it's a hard question to answer, no doubt. And I think it's hard for you to, and I wouldn't bullshit them and try to say that that's not going to be a struggle, but I would emphasize the backstop in Congress that we have. And I think that there's a narrative around Republicans and Democrats supporting clean energy that just isn't entirely accurate, especially if you consider that a lot of the individuals that control power in Congress with respect to energy a number of them tend to be generally supportive of clean energy, maybe not on every issue, but more supportive than you might think. So I think emphasizing Congress as a backstop to some of the insanity coming out of the White House. And I also think that you could lean into what's going on internationally. But I also think that what we're seeing, and certainly lean into what's happening at the state level here in the US, because the reality is that most of the policy is being made at the state level. So maybe that's a little rambling of an answer, but one, Congress is a backstep. Two, the states are leading policy and regulation anyway. Corporates are responding with, the international markets are opening up like mad.
So I would also say, okay, it's about the economics, right? So we've seen over the last 8 years the price of batteries go down, the price of wind go down, the price of LED light bulbs go down, the price of solar go down. If you're an investor and you want to be at the beginning of a new market, MHK technology is great. You want to get there right now, so you're going to see that curve go down. And I think Emily had it right. Congress is going to be something of a backstop, but I wouldn't even deal with that. I would say look at the numbers, focus on the technology, and look at the states. And Dawn's work is great in Hawaii. I mean, I think that's where we want to see work going on, and find where you're going to do these demos, which is what they've been doing. So I think there's great opportunity.
I also send them the Generation Investment slide deck on energy trends, which is just a data-driven slide deck. It's like our answer to the tech one. But I think it's about the data. So, you know, we can all like yell about macro trends, but ultimately it's about like building your business and your business model, like growing traction, growing revenue, and following the trends that are happening in tech and energy, and that's a terrific resource for investors, I found.
Yeah, maybe just to add, actually what makes me very optimistic in this world, like switching off the news basically and listening to people like the panel here and the entrepreneurs in the room and actually seeing what's happening on the ground, and that's where the real difference is. You know? Go ahead, Chris.
Sure. A question about the balancing act that it seems like you guys probably do, in the sense that you're working with entrepreneurs and there's that pressure for making the money, making the exits, and the clean energy space where sometimes the regulations and the policies are just painfully slow, and we're being battled at every step by the utilities and preventing us from doing what we're trying to do. So, Jen, I think you mentioned you guys make a 5-year commitment to your entrepreneurs. So, can you guys talk about what's the time frame of the engagement and the commitment that you all make to the entrepreneurs?
So the question is about how long the commitment is to the entrepreneurs for each of the accelerators.
I mean, I just think it's as long as it needs to be. So what I mean by that is that it's like having kids. Like, they graduate, but they never really leave. But ultimately, I think growing really good companies takes a long time. So we're really fortunate that we get to be alongside entrepreneurs in that journey. So, I mean, this space is just really different from tech and, you know, sort of a 3-month churn of an accelerator or something like that. So we work with companies really closely. One of our early companies that we worked with, STEM, we still work with them essentially every day. So I think STEM's an interesting company that they had developed a battery storage technology for commercial buildings. And when they first came to us, they had a number of these batteries installed in California, and said, what we really want to do is knit these together and put them on one system and turn control over to the utility, so the utility can aggregate that resource and use it when, you know, we need additional resources on the grid, as opposed to building and buying central station batteries. So it seems just massively obvious now. When we started doing this about 5 years ago, this was a very new idea and people were not sure. We need to work with the PUC to pass a rate, a pilot rate, to actually have the utility be able to pay STEM for the service. And we had to work with the utility to convince them this actually made sense for them. They could access energy storage cheaper. They could actually rely on this service compared to building their own thing. And so that seemed like it just took an age, and it took about a year to put all that in place. But here we are 4 years later, and they've been able to take that blueprint and do it all over the world, starting with SoCal Edison and then beyond. So I guess, like, I've personally learned so much patience working in this space and working with our policymakers and folks to make it happen. But when the way we think about it is, each of these companies that shows that you can do something new, they just break open the door for other companies, and then our job is to take those learnings and then replicate them across the market and create a market that doesn't just work for one company, but works for companies across that market space. So whether it's energy storage, whether it's in agriculture, or now really interested in doing this particularly in mobility and in water. So I mean, to me, it's, you know, learning patience is a virtue, and then working with companies as they grow is just a real honor.
I would say similar in that once you are in the Powerhouse community, you are forever in the Powerhouse community, and we will support you. We will make introductions on your behalf, whatever stage you're at, whatever you need. And I think we have, our mission includes that commitment to our entrepreneurs over the span of their company, beyond just their time at Powerhouse.
And I've already talked about time, but I think it's our job to really figure out how to make that faster for you, right? Like, so we want to figure out how to open more doors for you. We want to figure out how to find the coalition of the willing to help make your project, your technology, your product get into the market. So, you know, yeah, we definitely do the 5-year commitment, but, you know, if you're out in 2 years, awesome, good for you. But we're going to be committed to you, and that's what's important.
Good. So we're going to have our final question, and afterwards you can just walk up to the panelists and ask directly. Go ahead.
I was just curious, maybe this is
how a hackathon works? Like if you bring an idea and people work on it, like how does that work from like an ownership perspective? Like who owns the work? How does that roll into the company?
Sure, yeah, that's a great question. So at Powerhouse, using SunCode as the example, we would convene 120 developers and clean energy professionals, come with your ideas. We also will offer up technological challenges that a number of our partners will pose to the group saying, we need someone to solve this problem, we need a product that does this, etc. You build your demo, your working prototype, and then the idea and the IP stays with you and your team, but we defer to you and your team to negotiate if you decide to, one of you decides to move forward and start a company to figure that out on your own. So we wouldn't, of course, take any of that, but you would need to, should you proceed with starting a company at Powerhouse, need to figure that out amongst your team.
Right, well, maybe kind of final applause for the panel. Plug for New Energy Nexus. So there are 3 accelerators. There's literally dozens of them in the country and around the world. If you want to find out more about them, go to www.energynexus.co and also sign up for our newsletter. You'll find out all the opportunities and deadlines and application competitions, etc. In one newsletter every month. So if you're a startup, go check that out. And back to
Any final burning thoughts?
I just want to say thank you guys, and I mean it's a late night event, cold rainy night, and I just feel really lucky whenever we get to be in rooms full of people who are trying to solve these problems. So thanks Hendrik, and thanks for having you guys, and just keep at it. It's worth the fight.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for coming out. Okay, one more time for panelists.